wicket, 73 for 5. Of course, Tom Price's signature moment this season, or perhaps moments, but moments within the same day, came from what appeared to be a hopeless position. He came out at 45 for 7 on day 1 at New Road in the Championship this season and scored a century, his first class century, his first professional century, and later on that day took a hat-trick. He's going to need to do something similar today, one feels, on drive, this time from Tom Price, and picks out Hill at mid-on.
Tom is the slightly older of the two Price brothers, isn't he?
Yeah, it's been very much Ollie's time to shine since then. Tom's had a bit of a back issue which has niggled away at him. I think he's had to missed a couple of games in this competition and the Durham Championship match as well. Salisbury in and bowls, and that's with a shallow angled bat. He's just dabbed out into the covers again for no run, so just the single off that over. 73 for 5 after 60 overs. He has been tremendous with the ball, as Tom Price, when he has played 12 wickets, just 81 and 2 third, and an economy of well under 5 at 4.8.
He's been very consistent, hasn't he? Picked up at least 1 wicket in every innings.
Yeah, he's taken the new ball and he's tended to use it very well.
Josh Holt casting 4 shadows from the floodlights, of course. Bowls a line and length delivery to Graham Van Buren, who stretches forward, blocks it out into the offside, where Rishi Patel is the fielder. Van Buren, of course, is he's got a British wife, hasn't he? So hence he's not an overseas player. By now, he'd probably be qualified on residence and stuff anyway.
Much so.
But
been over for a long time. His kids were born and raised in Bristol.
85 list A games. Best part of 1,830 runs coming into this fixture. Hull is in, bowls to him. He drives, but controlled drive, made sure he was on top of the bounce and got it through the covers out towards Scriven, out there in the offside boundary. Takes 1, moves on to 27. Brunt is in the cake queue. Wonder what he's chosen. Friends of Grace Road. Big selection of cakes down there in their new home. Getting used to it now. A little unit underneath the meat on the ground floor. Hull is in, bowls to Price. Maybe just a suggestion of shape back in a touch, but Price plays it well. Off stump out, steers it out to Rishi Patel. The covers. No run.
I think his current high list A score was against Leicestershire. Tom Price, 45 made in the
usually
fixture. Well, having said that, though, of course Leicestershire won that game and have Gloucestershire 74 for 5 here. But yeah, I think that 45 was in that game last year at Bristol.
Hull is in onto the legs of Price this time, and he can go back and just work it around the corner. He thinks about a second, and he's going to make it 2 as well, because Kimber running up 2 ball wasn't able to pick it up cleanly. Right, cleaned up behind him, his younger teammate. But as a consequence, Price did not have to scurry the second, which he might otherwise have had to do. Let's have a look-see. 45. Magdalen College School, Oxford, as Hull is in, bowls to him, a tempter. Magdalen College School, Oxford, as Hull is in, bowls to him, a tempter. Out stump, and you could just see him thinking about it, and then wisely, I would suggest, lifting his bat and letting it go through to Peter Hanscom behind the stumps. Peter Hanscom playing his last game for Leicestershire this season. He is back to Australia probably tomorrow. He required by Victoria to commence preparing for the Australian season. looking forward to seeing Mrs H and little Jack. As Hull is in, bowls outside off stump, driven down into the ground. Again, slightly checked the shot, Tom Price there, and it was taken on the bounce by Patel in the covers. End of the over, 3 runs from it. Price has 4 off 9. He's digging in and playing sensibly, giving Van Buren the support he needs. Van Buren 27 off 30, and one feels that he's probably going to have to score probably 100 if Gloucestershire are going to set a testing score for Leicestershire. 76 for 5 off 17.
Yeah, I mentioned that century at Cheltenham against Northamptonshire. It was Anwar Ali who mostly kept in company there. They put on 104 together, so they'll have to be, as I say, they're still in a position where everything has to go perfectly. It's just that now it's perfectly just for something which would look vaguely competitive on the board, I think. In goes Salisbury, starting a new over, and once more Van Buren's playing in defence, very straight, just misses the stumps to the onside at the non-striker's end, and there is no run. I should say, if you're listening to us on Radio 5 Sports Extra, you will be leaving us at 4 o'clock for day 2 coverage from the US Open tennis. But if you want to continue listening to this game, uninterrupted commentary is available via the BBC Sport website and app, as it is for all games of county cricket throughout the season. In comes Salisbury and bowls, and forward goes Van Buren, plays the ball quietly to extra cover, and there is no run. A couple of shocks already at the US Open. I was watching that yesterday. The young Dane, Holger Rune, is already out. No such issues for Novak Djokovic, of course. Dropped, I think it was 5 games in his 3-setter last night. In comes Salisbury then, bowling to Van Buren on 27, and he won't get a run here either, as he just works it away out towards short mid-wicket. Ackerman does the fielding. At the moment, this has the feelings of the equivalent of about 6-love, 6-3, 6-2 this game at 76 for 5, but Gloucestershire
still in the first
still
set.
have, yes, well,
feels a bit that way.
Potentially up a break in the second at least, I might say, but anyway. It comes Salisbury and bowls, it's cut by more of a bottom edger than anything else, down towards third man it goes, and he collects 77 for 5. Bound really dried up. We haven't won boundary since the end of the 10 over power play. Just that one cut shot from Van Buren that came halfway through the 15th off Hull. So we've now gone over 3 overs since then, since a boundary. In comes Salisbury and pulled by Tom Price out towards mid-wicket, and that will be the boundary. So it was short. It was the first time that Salisbury's really tried to abandon. It was fight length where Tom Price liked it. He's very good at that kind of short arm pull over a straightish mid-wicket. He moves on to 8, T1 for 5.
With the pace of Hull, Salisbury's unlikely to play with that sort of weight. He did.
Last ball of the 18th over. Salisbury bowls, and there's an on drive from Tom Price, which does not squeak underneath the on fielder. Yes, get off a mid-on, don't they? Depending on whether they think they're more likely to on-drive or off-drive, but Tom Price like an on-drive. Right, did get down to it. I must admit, I'd be lying if I didn't say I thought that the ball bound past him, and I was expecting to see the ball the other side of his dive, but he stopped it. 81 for 5, 18 gone.
In fairness to Salisbury, that penultimate ball of that over was probably the first bad ball he's bowled. 4 overs, 1 for 10 now for Matt Salisbury. Well, Josh Hull, having picked up potentially very important wicket of Ollie Price, is having a break. Vian Mulder is coming back on. Bowled his 5 overs up top. And he bowled his 5 overs up top very effectively. Took 2 for 26. He's going to come back and bowl a little spell now. Again from the pavilion end, comes in and bowls to Van Buren full. And off stump, driven. Again, not quite timed by Graham Van Buren. Got it past Patel, diving across to his right at extra cover, but Hill moving across to his left at a deepish mid-off on the edge of the circle. Able to make a comfortable enough stop. Single taken though by Van Buren. Moves on to 29. Sort of carries himself pugnaciously, Graham Van Buren, as though he's up for the fight, which I'm very sure he is. Leans on his bat and watches as Tom Price takes guard. Mulder is in, bowls to him. Half a step forward, looking to drive, bit inside edge as it came back in towards him. Didn't sound as though it came off the middle, and makes a gesture with his right hand. A little bit of something there. Stopped at mid-on by Matt Salisbury. Brought in from Durham, and as I say, has bowled really nicely in these last 3 games. Mulder is in onto the legs of Price, tries to work it away. It doesn't get anything on it, comes off the pad, bounces back down the pitch, and again he indicates with his right hand that there's movement, which I'm not really seeing that much.
It is interesting though. I was just thinking that's about the 4th time now that we've seen a batter struck on their pad trying to clip the ball to leg, and I don't know what that says, but it's something that we have seen a few times. Tector's LBW, Ollie Price was struck on the pads trying to do that.
Mulder is in on off stump, leaning forward, angled bat down through gully, but it will be just the single as Josh Hull got to the ball quickly, got his throw away equally quickly on the bounce to Hanscom.
It's quite a sidearm throw, does Josh Hull?
When he has to.
That.
Yeah, it doesn't really, you know, normally it's a sort of, when he's under a little bit of pressure, when he needs to get it away quickly. In goes Mulder and bowls, and his Hull again is going to be called into action as that one comes off the thick outside edge of Graham Van Buren's bat, back on his back foot. The 2 South Africans exchange, well, a fairly convivial word, it would appear, judging by Mulder's big smile as he goes back past Van Buren.
So not that Neil Malander would be able to understand it anyway.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. Is Van Buren, does he speak Afrikaans?
Yeah.
Or does he? I don't know whether Mulder does. I would assume he does, actually.
Probably both.
Yeah.
Well, obviously both.
In he goes and bowls to Tom Price. Salute line and length on off stump. Price. Solid forward defensive. Plays the ball firmly down into the ground. Bounces out into the offside. Is 4-5, so 3 off that Mulder over. 2 for 29 from 6. Rate which was sort of half-ish, getting towards 5 3/4 after the power play. Just understandably, just drilled 4.4 at the moment.
St Stithian went to, which
Stithian.
I think that's an English-speaking school.
I wonder what he's the patron saint of. Well, that school being.
In comes Salisbury starting a new over, and Van Buren drives, but won't get a run as it's knocked down by Hill at mid-off.
Not one of the better-known saints, you wouldn't have thought. Stithian, maybe.
No.
I don't.
Well, it's a Methodist school.
Ah, okay.
I'm sure I've come across for another. I mean, it'll be one of those other
We probably produced a
schools
few
that uses
years.
a lot of cricket. In fact, by the looks of things, Harry Tector went there. That's why I know it. That's where I knew I'd come across it quite recently. Harry Tector's gone there, as did Curtis Campbell. Back on the padlock to flick into the leg side. Leicestershire is still up for this. Jack Chantry's clearly considering that appeal for quite some time because he didn't move off to the leg side. So Leicestershire kept shouting, and the ball goes down.
Maybe just drifting down. We'll see a replay, I'm sure.
I think it was, well, it was signalled a leg by in the end, so it wasn't inside edge that was the problem there. 85 for 5 as Viren gets at the end.
Yeah, going down, I think.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it might have been one that if you'd reviewed it, maybe it was clipping, but no review system Of course, Salisbury bowls to Price, who edges. There's no slip. It would have been straight into the hands of slip if it had been, but it goes down to the 4 runs. 89-5. Price moves on to 30. Price will be able to try and kid you into thinking that he meant to play it down fine. That was a genuine edge. Would have been a catch around about shin, I think, first slip. So potentially a big let off. There. Price is on 30, facing Salisbury, and there's a much more confident looking shot, an on drive, but it finds the hands of Height at mid-on. And there's no run. I'm trying to think of. So familiar with, I must say. Yeah, it is another obvious tell from of who grown responsibly in Salisbury. There's another drive from Price that will find the off, and there is another close one with Gloucestershire. Still huge crowd at on for 5. You might start the slightly best though.
Runs in and bowls very straight, and again the thick inside part of the bat as Van Buren is drawn forward, looking to drive, has to defend in thick inside part of the bat, squeezes the ball out to Ackerman at mid-wicket.
Yeah, it's one of those things that there's actually, I'm afraid, no point in ever sending me anything technical unless the stream isn't working on the BBC website, because with obviously Gloucestershire, who do their own separate streaming, it could be a bit confusing for fans sometimes at away games.
Mulder is in. That one is just drifting on towards leg stump, so Van Buren able to turn the bat face on it and help it on its way down towards long leg, where Chris Wright is the fielder in front of the Turner Indoor Centre down there at the Bennett end.
So we're not ever, whenever you hear my voice on Gloucestershire cricket, it's always BBC commentary, which happens to be synced to pictures rather than the case that we're doing it for the picture's sake, as occurs at other places, including Gloucestershire. I know that has confused several people in the past.
Mulder into Tom Price again on off stump, looking to drive. Hill gets across to his left, but he has to scramble across to his left at mid-off on the edge of the circle. By the time he does so, you probably heard Price immediately. Oh, yeah. Bring Van Buren through for the second single of the over. Just the 2 runs from it, Dave. 21 overs gone now. 91 for 5. The Gloucestershire score. What would be a good score from here? Well, I'll still, you know, I mean, 29 overs. Still have ambitions of getting somewhere over 250, 260.
Yeah, well, I think that's
but it mustn't lose wickets.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
One of the best case scenarios, really, I think, is about 250 from here, and that's going to take some getting, because, as I say, it's basically got to be these 3 plus Anwar Ali that get those runs. So they're still not in a position where, by any means, can they afford to lose another wicket. Tom Scriven into the attack, and so the 5th bowler is going to be used for the first time by Leicestershire.
Well, I'll nip in ahead briefly of Ed, if that's all right, just to give BBC Radio Leicester an update. Thought we might get it between the overs, but we're not going to quite do that, as Scriven is in bowls, defended off stump, and there is no run. Here's the update. It is still going pretty well for Leicestershire. 91 for 5, Gloucestershire, after Leicestershire won the toss and put them in to bat. They were 63 for 5 when Jack Taylor was bowled by Matt Salisbury 4-1, but Graham Van Buren has dug in. He's 31 not out off 43, and he's getting good support from Tom Price, who's 14 not out of 21 balls. Even so, Leicestershire in control, sort of on the scoreboard, and with all those wickets having fallen, Gloucestershire can't take too many more risks as their innings goes through. So the Foxes at the moment are in control of this semi-final. They have Gloucestershire 91 for 5. He just missed the one delivery that Tom Price tried to cut away, got a bit of a bottom edge, and Buttinger made the stop at backward point.
So all right arm seam so far from, well, not all right arm seam, apart from Josh Hull, all seam I should say, as forward goes Price and plays the ball back to the bowler, and there's no run. I just think that is such a nice thing to have, given it's not as if they don't have the option with Ackerman and I guess Kimber as well. I mean, Kimber's got 4 wickets against Gloucestershire in his career in that game last year, so they've got the option to bowl spin if it's doing something, but whilst seam is working, why change, really? Scriven bowls, and it's driven by Tom Price. He's not timed it at all, really. It's sort of bottom sort of part of the bat, really. Certainly missed the middle of the bat towards the lower half as presented to the bowler, and it goes to mid-off, no run.
Ball, Tom. I think that might have been it. Just he'd love to play against Hampshire in the final. It's former county, a long way from that yet.
Scriven bowls, it's full, and there's another on drive from Price. He's played about 3 or 4 of those so far, and none of them have brought him much joy as Wright gets across the field. I wonder if they're thinking about doing another sneaky change between Hill and Wright at the far end, just to annoy me. Last ball of what could be the first maiden over of the innings. Scriven bowls, and it will just about be a maiden. They thought about coming through for a quick single as it beat the fielder at short mid-wicket, but they had to wait for it to get by that fielder, and by the time Wright stopped it at mid-on, there was no chance to come through. So that is the first maiden over of the innings, as well as Leicestershire have bowled, and they have bowled well. That's the first of those overs. 91 for 5. The score remains 22 overs gone. Rate is still a tick over 4, but it is ever dropping.
Matt down in Melbourne, Australia, would like you to know, Ed, that your commentary is much better than the commentary on the Gloucestershire stream, and they are missing out. There you go. In goes Hull and bowls on the back foot. Van Buren defends out to mid-wicket. I know you wouldn't like to read that out, so I read it out for you.
I honestly hadn't seen it.
It's nice to know, though, isn't it? One is appreciated. Occasionally.
Well, all I can say is I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Hull. So just the 2 from Mulder is back in over the wicket to Van Buren, who defends again firmly. Aggressive defence from Van Buren. He's trying to be busy, but he's just chary of taking too many risks. He can't do that. He knows if he goes, so the 250 will look an awful long way off. Heavy cloud over the Upton Steel County ground at the moment, but again, a little bit of light behind it. He could be lucky. As Hull, elbows jutting, runs away from us and bowls a beauty that goes past the outside edge of a bat from Van Buren. He sparred at that one without really too much clue, really. Little bit flat-footed. Could only really have ended up in an edge. It might have gone down to the third man boundary or something like that, but he was just drawn into trying to sort of punch it away somewhere. And, a little bit too quick. Went past the outside edge. But Hull just never seems to react very much. You know, whether he's taken a wicket or been hit for 6, really. In he goes, and bowls outside off stump, and Van Buren, unsettled by that previous one, I think, went for the big booming drive. But again, there wasn't much foot movement, and he missed it by quite a long way, actually.
Yeah, I think it's also just a mark
Extra
of how
pace.
his innings has stalled as well. Just 4 runs from his last 15 deliveries now. Looking at that, it's probably more stark than that. That's just the particular stat that I've got in front of me, but he has slowed down after getting to 20 at around about a run a ball.
Hull is in again to him. Good delivery on off stump. Bounces back to Hull off the defensive bat. And Ackerman says to Hull, who took it one-handed, don't throw it, don't throw it. And Hull, a certain amount of byplay there. And well, Hull grins slightly sheepishly. He's still at that sort of slightly schoolboyish stage, Josh. And it's something rather nice about it. It's a good dressing room at the moment. Runs away from us and bowls. Van Buren manages to steer that one away in front of point out to Scriven on the offside boundary, and 1 is taken. But just that one from the over, so Leicestershire just in control of the scoreboard at the moment. And they've got a little bit of a squeeze on. They're not taking wickets. These two have dug in well and added 28. Looks around, hopefully. I think it's that anyway,
yes.
For 6 wickets so
Sorry,
far.
I didn't know whether it was the music that you were looking about.
No, it was
No.
purely a confirmation of my extremely poor mathematics.
No, it was 28, yeah. So, Scriven to continue, and Van Buren, I think, just retaking a guard there, whether that was a new guard or just confirmation. He's thinking about changing things up a bit. Scriven bowls, it's jabbed into the offside by Van Buren, and it goes out towards extra cover. I'll take a single, and it's 93 for 5. For a moment there, I don't know, maybe it was just a trick of from our slight off angle, but it looked as if he was certainly at least taking 2 leg there, Van Buren, and just for a moment there seemed to be a lot of stumps exposed before the bat came down on that ball. Tom Price looks to be taking middle, and Hanscom is coming up to the stumps. So he does like to does like to advance at fast medium bowlers, but he's okay to stay in his crease and play that shot because he's picked it up off a length over wide mid-on. It's an area that he really does like to target, does Tom Price, and he cleared the mid-on fielder by some distance and gets a boundary. 97 for 5. Wasn't that short, but he's just picked that up off a length. And he's slotted it over the mid-on fielder. Tom Price has 18, and Scriven is into bowl to him. He's looked to repeat the dose, and it's gone on the bounce to the fielder at mid-on. He didn't time that one to his liking, but still gets a single. 98 for 5 as the wind kicks up a little. The cloud has got a bit darker. The good news is that you can still see the definition of the cloud behind this particularly aggressive looking cloud formation, but it has just got noticeably chillier and breezier in the last couple of moments as Van Buren clips a single out to deep forward square off this next delivery. Keeper back for Van Buren.
Backline's just had a couple of sort of rolls of his shoulders and bowling action, so it might be that he's going to get an over or 2, or 5 or 6.
The 7-wicket man, the T20, I still remember watching that game actually. Extraordinary stuff. In comes Scriven and bowls, and Price has clipped this one high in the air. Deep square is under it. Catch taken.
Well, yeah.
Vion Mulder underneath it, and Tom Price probably looking to target that mid-wicket, wide mid-on region again. Decided clearly that this was the over that was going to go. He struck a 4 and took a single, and has tried to get a second boundary in the over, and to be honest, Vion Mulder barely had to move out at deep square leg. Pretty comfortable catch. It wasn't travelling particularly hard, and again, for the second time, just as Gloucestershire had something resembling a recovery building, same thing with Ollie Price earlier on, that's when the wicket has fallen. A partnership of 36, but it's nowhere near enough for what Gloucestershire needed it to be. 99 for 6 they are now, and down really to the last proper recognised pair. As I say, Tom Smith can certainly bat, he can hang about, but in terms of quick scoring and big scoring, you would feel Gloucestershire are now down to the pair that got them out of trouble against Northamptonshire at Cheltenham, but the task is even greater than it was then. 99 for 6 with a ball left in the 24th.
Tom Scriven has a wonderful knack of picking up wickets. Can get a bit of punishment, but that's his 12th wicket in the competition this season. Started with a 5 for 66. That was at the Oval against Surrey. But he's really come on as an all-rounder. Tom this season developed nicely.
Up comes the imposing figure of Anwar Ali, who just has the initials AK on his back, and he'll be facing up to Scriven, and you wonder how he's going to play. Is he going to look to hang in there, or
K is his second name, or it starts his second name?
Well, I think it's
wonder where the K comes from.
I think it's one of those things where, as in goes Scriven and bowls on the pads, and it's flicked away down towards fine leg, and he's off the mark with a single, and with a mixture of over-the-top celebration, serious generosity and genuine sarcasm, the crowd applaud Gloucestershire bringing up their 100 at the end of 24 overs for the loss of 6 wickets. As far as I know, I'm looking at it on here as well, it's not actually the case he's got a middle name or something even like that, but he wears AK-48 on the back of his shirt, and maybe he couldn't have the number 47 because Paul van Meekeren already had it. Anyway, I made the joke before, but he can be a gun player.
Hull is in to Ali, who is carefully forward and off stump, steering the foolish delivery out to Leicestershire skipper Lewis Hill at mid-off. That dark cloud still overhead, but so far it hasn't. I think that there's a sort of bit of very faint moisture in the air, but it's not, certainly not enough at the moment to concern the umpires, who are steadfastly ignoring each other. Nobody's looking at each other as Hull is in bowls. Foolish outside off stump. Slip is back in now for the new batsman. Going to have a drive. There are some very vocal Gloucestershire supporters here, and it was they, I would suggest, Leicestershire wouldn't have applauded with any sort of sense of sarcasm. I don't think you know, they've been in this sort of position on so many occasions that they don't tend to do that here, really. And it was the Gloucestershire supporters, who are a tough bunch, who applauded sarcastically when the 100 came up, as Hull is in again. Ali is just leaning forward, Anwar pushing the delivery out to Hill again at mid-off. Again, there is no run. And it was they who were calling for the wide, of course, as well, from down below us. A sort of pleased, contented murmur around the ground from the Leicester supporters, who are obviously very happy with the scoreboard reading 100 for 6 coming up to the halfway point in the innings. Hull turns up the slope he goes, and bowl slightly short cut. Got on top of the bounce just about there, did Anwar, and cut it away down towards, wristily down towards third man, who's Rishi Patel at the moment. No gully, of course, and it would have bounced a long way short of gully had there been one. Moves on to 2. What does Van Buren do from here? Keep playing the same way for now, because Anwar can clearly handle himself. Not many who can't these days with the bat. Hull is in to Van Buren, who looks to pull again. It's on him a little bit more quickly than he thought it was going to be. Came off either the very top part of the bat or maybe even the glove. He's not shaking his hand, so I'd suggest it was the top part of the bat, and indicates with his right hand it having sort of dropped on the edge of the circle just behind square on the leg side, and he'd taken one. But again, there was a bit of extra bounce, carry. Hull, if there's any to be there, finds it, and he has done in this innings. 1 for 18, 1 ball to go in his over. Ackerman comes out of slip. They've decided that Anwar can bat a little bit, and after 5 balls, Ackerman comes out of slip and goes in at mid-wicket on the 1, as Hull goes in and bowls foolish delivery, looking to drive, but doesn't really get any weight into the shot. Anwar just steers it a little tinnily out towards Mulder at extra cover. And there is no run. End of the over. 2 from it, 102 for 6. And we are at the halfway point of the Gloucestershire innings.
Yes, maybe.
In
I mean,
terms
halfway
of
in terms of
overs.
overs, definitely. Yeah. Well, Anwar Ali actually does have a higher list day average than Graham Van Buren, but it is probably the case that would have... I don't know, I haven't looked at it year by year, but I would imagine that that's probably come down a bit in
61 against Northants.
Yep.
In this
So
competition.
it was this partnership which really rescued Gloucestershire in that game. Van Buren pushes a single up towards mid-on, who's quite deep on the circle now, and so, to be honest, Leicestershire won't mind that too much. It gets Anwar Ali on strike early on in the over, 103 for 6. Yeah,
Has played 22 one-day internationals for Pakistan, but the last was back in 2016. 35-year-old, hails from Karachi.
safe to say he's lost a little bit of pace since he played for Pakistan, but at the same time he's been terrific for Gloucestershire with the ball the last couple of games, and he's not going to contribute any more with the bat than the 2 that he scored, because that ball was a ball which Anwar Ali's signalling that the ball's cut back at him, and It's beaten him on the inside edge through the gate, pegged back off stump. And Gloucestershire 103 for 7. Tom Smith will be coming out to the crease. And I'm afraid to say Gloucestershire have fallen flat on their faces in this semi-final. They've not managed to recover from losing some early wickets. And it's just been a pretty steady flow. And the latest man walking back, Anwar Ali, bowled by Scriven, who's got his second wicket.
Did come back. Maybe not quite as much as Ali implies, but it did come back, no question about it. And yeah, super delivery. Top of off. Scriven again, picking up wickets. They may not need to go to Ackerman.
No, I don't think so.
In terms of spin.
Might as well bring back Chris Wright for a spell, I think. Maybe.
See if they can finish it off.
Overs. Yeah, just get it over and done with. Of course, just in case there's anybody worrying about rain curtailing proceedings and 20 overs of Leicestershire's innings not being got in later, my understanding is that it resumes from the point that it was tomorrow. So it's not as though it could tip down with rain. This entire game would be wiped out and then we'd have to start again tomorrow. That's not the case. So there's no reprieve as far as Gloucestershire are concerned.
And it is a good forecast tomorrow, I believe, in Leicester. Should that, but I don't think it is going to be a factor because it looks quite light where the weather's coming from.
Well, I think...
Yeah, it says stopping any chance of rain after 6. So...
To be honest, the chances are now, with 7 wickets down, that even if rain were to come much later on, that cricket wouldn't get that far. So it is Tom Smith with a slip in place facing up to Tom Scriven, and that's turned uppishly into the leg side, but there's nobody at short mid-wicket, so Smith is able to get off the mark with a single out to the boundary rider, 104 for 7.
Yeah, they had Ackerman at slip. Had he been at his customary mid-wicket position, went straight to him, pretty much. He is there now.
Well, what do you do if you're Van Buren in this situation? You're damned if you do, damned if you don't, really. In goes Scriven and bowls to him, and he drives, but again, not real timing there. Bobbles up to mid-off, and there's no run. If you go for it and get out, well, you only succeed in, I guess, worsening the situation, but then there's the school of thought that says it's already a dreadful situation anyway. You know there's not a great deal of batting to come, so might as well go for it and see if you can start striking the ball, but that approach certainly hasn't worked for Gloucestershire so far. He's trying to clip into the leg side this time as a strangle shot for leg before wicket. I might have heard 2 noises there anyway, but even if it weren't, it looked a little leg side-ish.
Little as in quite a lot.
Well, yes, just practicing the art of litotes there. But from Van Buren's point of view, anything he cares about is that he's still there. He'll be looking for a single of the last ball of this over, you would think. Scriven is into him, he won't get it. Again, he's just covering up in defence as the ball goes up to short mid-wicket. Scriven through 3 overs, 1 maiden, 2 for 10, 104 for 7 after 26 overs. And they've backed each other up, of the Leicestershire bowlers, when 1 or 2 have finished good spells, another 1 or 2 have come on and done exactly the same thing. They've pretty much just bowled a decent line and length, haven't they? There's not been too much kind of wizardry going on. They've made use of what's there, and for the most part they bowled consistently and known that if they can find the right spot, something will happen.
Holt is into Tom Smith, who again is chipping into the air into the leg side, and again there is nobody sort of on the edge of the circle where the ball drops. It runs out towards Louis Kimber. The square leg boundary, Kimber comes in to meet it. Smith takes 1, moves on to 2. He's only had to bat, or only been called upon to bat twice in the competition in his 6 appearances for Gloucestershire in the Metrobank One Day Cup this season. Tom Smith. Van Buren on strike 2, Hull, who is in bowls, driven, reaching out for it, out into the offside, and not taken cleanly by Scriven, who is out there on the offside boundary, but grabs it quickly at the second attempt, and Van Buren, who turned, hopefully, in anticipation of a possible second, has to say no to Tom Smith. Sussex, of course. Tom Smith, it's his birthday today.
Of course it is. I know.
It's his birthday. He's 37 today.
I made a note of it that it would be, but then actually
spinner.
It didn't make onto my match note page.
In goes Hull and bowls, and this time he's playing down into the ground in the leg side, taking his one very calmly out towards square leg it goes. There are no close fielders on the leg side, with the exception of Matt Salisbury, who's at mid-on. And he's sort of at a deepish mid-on. Well, now we've got Ackerman in there at mid-wicket, so we are looking to just to cut off that potential single for Smith, who has 3 off 3. 107 for 7. Van Buren back on strike. This Hull, halfway through his 7th over, turns, runs in and bowls short, but a slower ball as well. But Van Buren picked it quite nicely, waited for it, and then just swiveled as he pulled it down to long leg. He has got a sort of slower bouncer, Josh Hull. Needs a little bit of work, clearly still. Perhaps it's almost too slow. It needs to be a bit shorter than that, so the battery's reaching for it. Van Buren stayed in control, picked up 1, moved on to 38. Smith waits with bat raised as Hull is in to him, full straight, but Smith everything behind it as he pushes it out to Salisbury at mid-on. Played almost twice as many List A games as first-class games, Tom Smith. 96 wickets in 105, the left-arm spinner. Very good economy rate, and did, of course, play in the 2015 win.
Indeed. Yep, one of 3 members of this current 11 who played in that game.
Let me guess, the others being Van Buren?
Nope.
Oh. Hammond?
Nope.
Not doing very well, am I? I've reduced the odds considerably already. Hull is in, bowls a bounce, a good one, and Smith just ducks underneath it. Bracey then. No?
Nope.
Well, Payne must have done.
Yes. Yeah, David Payne bowled the last over, defended 8 off that last over.
Van Meekeren's been around for a while, hasn't he? But he was at Somerset, must have been at Somerset then. Jack Taylor, 30. Yeah, I forget that he's 30, in his 30s, Jack, now.
Yeah, Jack Taylor was involved with Tom Smith in resurrecting Gloucestershire. And Surrey looked to be absolutely cruising towards that target. And then Kumar Sangakkara came dancing down the pitch and lofted one high in the air, and Surrey collapsed. In comes Scriven and bowls. This is played up to mid-on by Van Buren, and he will collect a single, so exactly the same as the last Tom Scriven over, where he played the ball to mid-on and set off for 1. And I don't think I'll mention what happened very next ball. 109 for 7. Van Buren on to 39. Clearly looks as if he's decided, well, okay, I can trust Smith to stay in, so let's just get what runs we can. Scriven bowls to Smith, who struck on the pad. This looks pretty close. It's been given out. So that's all going to change now, with just Payne and Van Meekeren to come. I was, to be honest, waiting for the finger to go up there. Jack Chantry still took his time, but he's given Tom Smith his marching orders. 109 for 8, Gloucestershire. I don't think Van Buren's got any choice now but to start trying to swing and hope that he can just get Gloucestershire a few more runs.
Yeah, I would have been surprised had Jack Chantry not raised the finger there. And it didn't take him too long to send Tom Smith on his way. So, as you say, what will Van Buren do? Will he has to try and get the score up to 180, something like that. David Payne. Dorset boy, Dorset man.
Yep, one club man though. Gloucestershire. His deal is up at the end of the year.
Is it?
But
is he looking around?
We'll see. Well,
we'll
we'll
be happy
see.
to have a chat to him.
He's got a very decent first-class record. His average is, I think, something like 17 in first-class cricket. I must admit, because he's not batted yet in List A cricket, and he's not batted in List A cricket for what will be over 4 years. I couldn't tell you what his List A average is. There we go, 19.18. So he's no mug with the bat, is Payne, but the thing is, over recent times in first-class cricket, his average has gone down with the bat. So you would imagine that kind of be the same case in this. He did hit one gigantic six in the blast, which was caught by somebody, I think, up towards the top floor of the Bristol apartments, but I don't know if that's going to be the strategy here. In goes Scriven to bowl to Payne, who plays the ball fairly comfortably in the end, out towards cover for no run.
The infamous Bristol apartments.
Yes.
Yes, you missed all that excitement earlier this
not
season.
Not the same apartment block.
Oh,
okay,
right. Oh, right. Remember, David, Payne coming up onto the balcony at Cheltenham and doing some commentary alongside us, with us.
Yes, he's very good. With that is David Payne, as Scriven bowls, and the ball is just about kept out by Payne as it goes out into the covers once more, and there's no run.
We are absolutely behind the batter's eye, so to speak, on this pitch where the commentary box is situated. I could see the ball sort of arrowing to us. I thought, goodness me, I thought that had snuck through.
Did look fairly similar to the ball that got rid of Anwar Ali for a moment. He's got two more balls of this over to negotiate. Scriven bowls, Payne slashes and misses outside the off stump. There was a bit of width on offer, and Payne threw the hands at it. Ended up trying a one-handed flail out into the offside and missed it. Gosh.
It was,
That's going to get your attention, I think, if you're Graham Van Buren at the non-striker's end. He's basically played a long way inside that, and it's not actually a couple of inches off the wide line. In comes Scriven and bowls. It's his angled down towards third by Payne, and so he'll keep the strike. Leicestershire will be quite happy with that. 110 for 8 after 28 overs. And this game, I'm afraid, has been far more like that game where Warwickshire skittled Gloucestershire out for 120 miles, and Barnard and Hannon Dolby started the carnage, but they just couldn't arrest the slide, rather than recent times where it has to be said, not only have they been winning games of cricket, but absolutely demolishing opponents. It's rather
I can give Gloucestershire supporters not necessarily comfort, but some encouragement. In Leicestershire's last game here in this competition against Yorkshire, they had Yorkshire at 91 for 8, so not an entirely dissimilar position, and then they added 75 for the 9th wicket. In goes Mulder bowls, outside off stump, driven but in the air, and very successfully by David Payne, clubbed over extra cover, wide extra cover in there. I say clubbed because and that's not fair really. I mean, I think he genuinely drove it. There was no great follow through, but he timed it beautifully. Update coming for BBC Radio Leicester, and Payne picks up 4, moves on to 5, 114 for 8. Something to think about there for the Foxes. Mulder turns, runs in and bowls, defended the straight delivery out into the offside. Here comes the update. Yeah, they've just picked up the 8th wicket of the Gloucestershire innings. Tom Scriven, who has bowled beautifully in this competition, has picked up the last 3 to fall. Tom Price, who was caught at deep square leg by Vian Mulder for 19. Anwar Ali, who was bowled a delivery that came back and hit the top of off stump for 2. And then Tom Smith, leg before wicket for 309 for 8. David Payne has come out to join Graham Van Buren. He's just hit Vian Mulder for a fine 4 over extra cover. Van Buren is 39 not out. Payne is 5 not out, but after 28.5 overs, Gloucestershire are struggling. They're 114 for 8. That one again defended comfortably enough by Payne. It is gloomy again out there, but as I say, the weather forecasts, well, suggest we might get another shower, but Mulder is in, bowls. Payne defends out into the offside, out towards point. And there is no run, but to be dry from about sort of 6 o'clock onwards. So every chance of getting this game through. But just to finish that point, yeah, 75 for the Yorkshire 9th wicket. Dom Bess was one of the batters. I'm trying to remember the other.
Ben Code?
Code, yeah, who makes 45.
He's been in very good form with the bat this season as Ben Code.
In goes Mulder and bowls. Payne defends. Again, he's timed it as well as any of the sort of middle or lower order so far, out into the offside. Patel, the fielder. So they had a problem finishing Yorkshire off on that occasion, and they did what you sort of suggested might happen, in that they brought back Wright, looking to finish the innings off, and he went for a few, actually. So how did they get out in the end? It was obviously a different wicket. Mulder picked up the 9th wicket, and Kimber the 10th, as Mulder bowls and turned by Payne calmly, wristily out towards mid-on. Mid-on
again.
Yeah, back on his heels rather, but he was a long way back anyway, Matt Salisbury. So comfortable single for David Payne. Moves on to 6 off 10, 115 for 8 after 29.
Well, maybe that's the strategy. Just leaning on his bat and talking to Graham Van Buren there. Don't you worry, he'll not face another ball. I think there's a story Dickie Bird tells about Wally Hammond and Sam Cook, the former Gloucestershire spinner, about such a partnership where Cook had to basically block out one ball, and then it was, you'll never face another ball, and he didn't. Forward goes Payne to play the ball out towards extra cover, and there's no run. It's been a while since I've listened to that story, but anyway, at the moment Payne is nicking all the strike. He's had all 11 deliveries since he's come out there, and we are yet to find out exactly how Graham Van Buren is going to play things. Just, it hasn't, as soon as Gloucestershire have looked to play shots, it's just been one of those days where for the most part they've lost wickets. Payne drives, sort of puts the bat out there for the ball to hit really, and it angles away to the right hand side of backward point, and he'll collect a single and allow Van Buren the opportunity to face him bowling. 116 for 8.
They are a vocal bunch, these Gloucestershire
Yes.
faithful that have travelled,
Yes,
the travelling faithful.
They do. And it doesn't matter what the match situation is, to be honest. They take their kicks where they can get them. In goes Scriven and bowls to Van Buren. He plays the ball up to mid-on again, and once more is going to collect a single. So he'll move on to 40, 117 for 8. It's been pretty much a lone hand from Gloucestershire's championship skipper. Double figure scores for Bracey and both Price brothers, but other than that, 2 ducks, a 1, a 2 and a 3. Does not make pleasant reading if you're a Gloucestershire supporter. Scriven bowls to Payne, and that will be a single out towards deep forward square. Payne moves on to 8, 118 for 8. Payne obviously having been playing in the 100 for Welsh Fire, who didn't quite manage to make the knockout stages, and because of particularly the injury to Ajit Singh Dale, who has bowled with real genuine pace this season for Gloucestershire, he was able to come in as effectively an injury replacement. Van Buren drives this latest Scriven delivery and misses. was, again, a shot where there wasn't a great deal of foot movement. It was mostly just trying to make the adjustment with the hands, and he could easily have nicked off.
As somebody from Dorset, David Payne is probably as close to Wales as any of their squad, wasn't he? Coming from Wales. I don't think there was a Welshman among them, was there?
They tried to make the case for Dan Douthwaite, who went to university there.
Okay.
The women's team have got a couple of Welsh players. Scriven bowls to Van Buren, who drives just out of the reach of the bowler and out of the reach of Wright as well, who slides and can't get it. And it is a boundary for Van Buren, who moves on to 44. 122 for 8 at the end of 30 overs. But yeah, I think they picked this year both Chris Cook and Dan Douthwaite from Glamorgan, and then neither ended up playing anyway. Payne played in nearly all of the games, but with them not having made the knockout stage, he was able to return and played in that playoff game and got the crucial wicket of Keaton Jennings in his first over, which Gloucestershire never really looked back from there. You feel Jennings in that particular Lancashire side, inexperienced middle order. That wicket was a massive one to get early on, and just like Gloucestershire here, really, they never particularly recovered.
Well, Ackerman went to slip for Mulder bowling to Payne, but has been now sent out to mid-wicket as Mulder is in. Payne defends. He gives himself a little bit of room. The tall, what is he, about 6'5", something like that, at least I would think. Obviously bats right-handed as opposed to bowls left-handed, and of course he's famously an England international now. David Payne. Was it the Netherlands?
It was, yeah, 2021. That was his last list A game
in the COVID year.
Before that playoff game. Sorry, it was last year, 2022.
Mulder is in, bowls to him. He sort of goes back and turns his wrists on the defensive shot, manages to work it back down the pitch to Vian Mulder.
Feels longer ago than that, but it was last year, that series against the Netherlands. He was a part of the COVID squad against Pakistan in 2021, the year that the entire England squad got COVID, but he didn't make his debut in that series.
He waits with bat raised as Mulder is in, bowls to him, goes straight past the outside edge, tried to, well, just hit it straight back over Mulder and the umpire, and it missed everything, including the off stump by very little indeed. And Mulder and Neil Malander, who sort of flinched slightly at how close that was to the off stump, smile at each other.
I'd love to know what Van Buren just said to Payne there. I don't think it would have been much use saying, don't do that again.
Yeah, goodness me, that was close to off stump. Mulder is in, bowls, and much more circumspect, and rightly so. David Payne just defends with an angled bat, steers it through the vacant gully and takes his one. That is what he needs, just keep doing. David Payne, give the strike to Graham Van Buren for a while, see if he can hang around 5 overs, 10 suddenly becomes 10 overs, suddenly you've got another 50 or 60 on the board, and you know, you have something to bowl at, essentially. At the moment, there's not much to bowl at. Get it up to 180, you know, you never know. Mulder is in, Van Buren taking his bottom hand off the bat on the back foot, trying to work it into the onside, doesn't time it, it runs out to Ackerman, who just spins the ball in his right hand. May yet get an over or two if these two hang around for a while. The partnership grows. At any rate, this is Mulder's coming to the end of his 9th over, 2 for 37, so I would imagine he'll bowl out. Might try an over or two from Ackerman just to see. Mulder is in, bowls, Van Buren defends. Again, not much foot movement, dabs it out towards backward point. Budinger is the fielder. End of the over, just a single from it. 123 for 8 after 31. Sort of, you'd hope to double it at this stage, but with 2 wickets in hand, that's a big ask, isn't it? You know, to get it up to 250 from here. Put it this way, if James Bracey was offered 250 right now, I think he might take it.
Yes, but at the moment we're struggling for 250 runs in the match if the last couple of wickets go quickly. Payne again on strike, and we'll see whether he decides to try and line up Chris Wright the way that he has done the last couple of overs.
This is what they did last time. It didn't work against Yorkshire.
So Scriven 3 for 19 from his 5 overs, and here comes Wright bowling to Payne, who very carefully, in almost exaggerated fashion, angles the ball down towards the third man boundary and will get a single. So he's into double figures, he's on to 10, 124 for 8. And Van Buren 44 with another little chat between the two batters, certainly not lacking for experience out there, and it's one of the things really looking at the Gloucestershire side, to be honest. I never did maths on this, but to be honest, even without doing so, Gloucestershire were the most experienced side, I think, in these One Day Cup playoffs. This is cut by Van Buren towards backward point, and there's no run. When you think that there's only the two Price brothers who were south of 26, and then in terms of List A cricket,
Tector.
Oh, Tector, of course.
23.
Yes. But then I guess, you know, you're thinking about international experience of conditions, you know, and whilst somebody like Hammond, for example, I think this is his 11th List A game, he's still been a county pro for many a year. This is driven by Van Buren up to mid-off, there's no run. And lots of players who've played in excess of about 70-odd List A games.
Yeah, it is an
Payne,
experienced
Van
side.
Buren, Smith and Anwar Ali, I think, are over triple digits. So in terms of 50 over cricket especially, one of the most experienced sides out there, and I guess it's one of the reasons why it's been rather a shame they've not managed to extricate themselves from the situation they got themselves in, as Van Buren plays this one towards backward point and there's no run, because really all those players have been in similar situations to that. It's not for the lack of experience, and as I say, there are even some members of the side that went on to win the trophy 8 years ago, so it's just been one of those games where it just has not worked. Right bowls to Van Buren, has gone wide outside the off stump. Van Buren tried to cut it, got a noticeable outside edge, and the catch taken by Hanscom behind the stumps, and it is very much last rights now. Any hopes that Gloucestershire might have had of some sort of extraordinary partnership to see them up towards the 200 mark once again are extinguished by Leicestershire. Van Buren will be livid to have got out to his favourite shot. It's not something that happens very often, but just a bit of extra bounce. And the edge found. 124 for 9, and just Paul Van Meekeren to come.
Well, everything seems to be going Leicestershire's way at the moment. You could almost, well, you could see the deflection, top edge. Hanscom made no mistake. So, well, Payne has looked as comfortable as anybody out there, to be quite honest. He's looked to have had time. Admittedly, the balls are what now, sort of 15, 16 overs old each, which is a long time in white ball terms, isn't it? But goodness me, this is the Foxes to lose from here, isn't it? There it is, spitting now. Jed Scott from BBC Sport tells me it's raining very hard in Birmingham right now, and it might be drifting our way. Now the forecast suggests it could, but it could also drift to the north. It has filled in a bit actually over there where the weather is coming from, so it may well be that we are going to have a delay possibly during the interval.
So it is right to complete this 32nd over of the innings to Van Meekeren, and he manages to keep the ball out, play it backward of square on the offside, and that is the end of that latest wicket containing over. 2 wickets for Wright and Mulder, 3 for Scriven, and 1 each for Hull and Salisbury. The rain's coming down almost horizontally as we look out. Now it's obviously fine enough that it's getting blown about by the breeze, but
it's raining hard now. They're going to have to come off, aren't they?
Nobody wants to come back tomorrow in this situation, I can tell you that. Gloucestershire certainly won't.
The forecast, as I say, is it for it to get dry from about 5. Mulder is in, bowls very straight. Payne is offering a very straight bat in response, pushing it out into the offside, and there's no run. Van Meekeren, possibly this is one of the tallest partnerships you'll see on a cricket field. These two are both very big men.
He does have many skills, Van Meekeren, but
Meekeren, I beg his pardon,
really
not
much
Meekeren.
of a batter, I'm afraid. Average south of 10 in this day cricket.
Mulder is in to Payne, who's turning it into the vacant square leg area. Ackerman raises his hand just to make sure that Kimber is aware it's heading his way. Takes the single.
And he does tend to be more of somebody that looks to hit the ball rather than being one of those kind of, well, I don't know. Well, you know, one of those 11s that looks to bat time. That's not really not really his thing as the music goes off again, just as Mulder's trying to bowl.
Well, goodness me. And a brilliant catch. That was astonishing. Van Meekeren stepped across, tried to ramp the delivery down to, well, I'm not sure, behind the wicket-keeper. He lofted it towards third man. Hull came running in, got underneath it, and managed to hang on to the catch. And, well, I've seen some extraordinary dismissals, but in the circumstances of a one-day cup semi-final, in those circumstances, not many more extraordinary than that. The covers come out because Gloucestershire are all out. They are all out for 125 of 32.3 overs.
It has been a performance to forget from Gloucestershire. They've played such good cricket to get here, but they've got to a semi-final and it's just not worked. Hammond out without scoring in the fourth over. James Bracey played a couple of nice shots for early boundaries, but they always looked as if they were going to get themselves in trouble pretty much, well, not pretty much every time they attacked, but since a couple of nice drives early on from Bracey, there was just kind of seemingly a difficulty in picking the right balls to attack and the right balls not to. And as I say, they've just never managed to arrest the slide at 62 for 3 with Ollie Price at the crease along with Van Buren, as Leicestershire fielders get a generous reception from their home supporters as they make their way off the field. It sort of felt as if something was beginning to build there, but when Hull bounced out Ollie Price spooning a ball in the air on the pull shot, I think he really did feel at 62 for 4 there was going to be very little coming back from there. But yeah, it's not been a performance Gloucestershire will be proud of, that is for sure, and they don't have enough to defend here at just 125, and it's a real disappointment that the competition looks as if it is going to end in this way. It's one thing to lose in a tight one, but at this point it doesn't look as if it will be anywhere remotely close.
Well, you never know, never judge entirely until both sides have batted, but yeah, we'll give you the bowling figures. Vian Mulder, who opened the bowling and closed it as well, 9.3 overs, no maidens, 3 for 38. Chris Wright, who picked up that wicket of Van Buren towards the end, 2 for 31 from his 6. Josh Hull, 1 for 22 from 7. Matt Salisbury, 1 for 14 from 5. And Tom Scriven, who made sure that the Gloucestershire tail didn't wag, took 3 for 19 from 5 and bowled the only maiden of the innings. 44 from Van Buren was the top score, 22 Ollie Price, 21 James Bracey, 19 Tom Price. Payne finished unbeaten on 11, everybody else in single figures. So we shall go and hassle the chef for our interval meal. No doubt everything will be a little bit chaotic. The cut-off time for the innings was 5:30. It is 4:22 as the umpires leave the pitch, and more covers come out. It has filled in a bit and it is raining quite hard at the moment, but as I say, the forecast is good, and I am reasonably confident that we will have enough overs to get this game done today. Well, from Ed and myself, for the next, what time is it? Well, about half an hour or so, we'll say good afternoon from the Upton Steel County Ground.